Ever since the early 2010s, it's been incredibly difficult to find an
It's actually really funny for me to see that. That was like my mom's main mount back in the day in like vanilla WoW.
old-fashioned style role-playing experience. In the time leading up to the present, the industry has changed in drastic ways. Franchises of the old, like World of Warcraft, once redeemed for what they brought to the table, have been reformed into a more approachable format with a focus on streamlining and accessibility attitudes. Everything from leveling, itemization, catch-up features, difficulty, an in-game store, among others, are now drifting towards the mainstream attitude of making sure nobody misses out on anything just because. But it's not just the MMO market. Most franchises have seen a huge overhaul to their formulas, from JRPGs to action games to shooters like Battlefield. The pace of today's games is often so breakneck as we live in an I want it all right now culture, gimme, gimme, gimme. Today's young audience of gamers wants everything for the smallest amount of time spent to get it. Whether it's throwing players into the action faster, just look at the evolution of the Battle Royale formula, decreasing the demands of player skill, time, and investment, or showering us with shiny things.
I don't know about decreasing skill. Like, that part I really don't agree with, because there's a lot of people that play BRs that are very good at the game, right? I don't think that's the case at all. But everything else, maybe a little bit, sure.
Things at every opportunity, we're starting to lose the nuances that make many games irresistible. One of those genres is the MMORPG. For those that grew up with the original version of the game, it's safe to say that finding an experience like vanilla has been pretty damn impossible. We've been left to toil away in an industry that has steered away from that magical feeling of being a pathetic and lonely adventurer, dropped off in a world devoid of handholding and tutorials, expected to venture forth on our own. A world that demands an extreme amount of attention, diligence, and most importantly, persistence by that player to get to where he or she wants to go.
Obviously.
Since WoW's transition into the mass market with Cataclysm onwards, we've no longer been able to get that true adventurer's experience with an MMO, with a bustling and co-mingling community. Since then, we've been told what games we like and what games we don't by today's industry leaders.
EA says people don't really enjoy linear games as much today. You gotta cut the bridge and you realize you can't make a lot of money on something. Well, it's like people, I mean, like, there are like things that people want, and like, yeah, obviously a linear game isn't really that exciting because you know everything that's gonna happen. This isn't even a wrong opinion to have. Because, like, obviously people don't care about linear games as much now. Because... What? Okay. All right, so anyway, what was I saying before? Right, people don't care about linear games now because they just go on YouTube and they watch the ending of the game. Right, so they just watch the playthroughs. And back in the day, you weren't really able to do that as much. And now, people do that a lot more often. So the linear playthrough games are good for the first experience. And whenever people just watch the playthroughs, and they see them on streams and on YouTube videos, it removes that excitement out of the first experience. What, is that a wrong opinion? Like... what's wrong about that? I'm confused. What are you guys, fucking retarded? Like, so if people play through the linear story-based games to know what's going to happen at the end of the linear story-based games, right? And to play through and have the experience of going through the game. Whenever you have something that gives you that experience, even if it's from a third party, it diminishes the experience that you would potentially have. So that way, the fulfillment that you get from doing it yourself is less. I'm not saying that nobody cares about them, but it is minimized. Like, it just makes sense. Just because you watch a playthrough doesn't mean you don't buy the game. No, but now that you can watch a playthrough, there are more people that watch a playthrough instead of buying the game. Like, I mean, really, have you guys never watched a playthrough of a game instead of playing it yourself? Has nobody ever done that? Like, come on. Like, I hear that all the fucking time. Like, even I do this, right? If I don't want to play Path of Exile, I can at least watch a Path of Exile streamer and see what they're doing. But I'm not even playing the game. I'm like, I just get the fulfillment of like saying, okay, yeah, this is cool, and then I don't ever play it. Yeah, people do it all the fucking time. This isn't even a bad opinion.
Expected to bow down to the Lord of Accessibility.
Right.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
You don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon.
We've been encouraged to play games that are designed from the ground up to be enjoyed by everybody, but perhaps not craved by anyone. This has shaped the industry we now know today, where we have to fill out petitions online to show these ignorant clowns that there's a space in today's video game economy for all types of experiences, not just the ones that cater to the 6-second attention span of a teenage boy.
That's about right.
In the last 15 years, we've seen huge changes to the ecosystem of the video game industry, and those have reached far beyond just how MMOs are made. We live in this interesting time where most games try to hook you immediately, present content that's approachable by anybody, and accessible to the masses to take advantage of bigger sales and player pools. This widening of the belt, so to speak, was pursued by game companies to survive as game counts and in turn competition have risen through the years.
Right, of course.
The industry has seen a great avalanche of titles come into the scene since 2005 at a rate faster than ever before. We're not in Kansas anymore. This isn't the 32-bit era.
That game.
Games have
That was on like Nintendo 64. Damn, I played that. Was that Jet Force Gemini or something, right? Yeah. That shit was fun.
to compete with thousands of other games on a daily basis in order to survive. And with so many other titles vying for the attention, money, and retention of players, we've seen a lot of dilution to the core game philosophies of the past.
Okay.
Accessibility, convenience, ease of access, approachability, quick progression, player navigation tools, automatic tracking, etc. I can go on for days. These are some of the front runners in a long list of changes to how games have been made that have slowly transformed the blueprint for the modern video game. It's safe to say that for the most part, gaming isn't what it used to be, which isn't to say that current games are bad, but they hardly encapsulate what generational WoW players have come to love about the original World of Warcraft vanilla experience.
They are bad. You know how I know they're bad? Is because every single time that a new game comes out, it's popular for like a microsecond, and then nobody cares about it anymore. Like, there are obviously exceptions, right, that do have like lasting staying power. You have something like Dark Souls, like Sekiro, like Witcher 3, maybe God of War, and like a lot of these other games. But most of the time, a new game comes out, and it's like, wow, I can't wait to play it! And then they play it, and they're like, okay, well, no, okay, you're gonna do something else, right? Because who gives a fuck, right? That's the truth. League of Legends has been holding it down. Yeah, but the fact is that that's an exception, not a rule. The rule is that many of these games, like, people just don't care about them anymore. And I feel like there are more quality games that were released in like the mid-2000s than are being released now.
Hardcore experiences are harder to find these days. Long, demanding, and challenging games too, and games without tutorials or ones that hold your hand. Where are those? As an original vanilla player, I can tell you firsthand that none of the RPGs, MMOs, or games, period, I've played in the last 15 years have ever come close to that experience. Leveling is grueling. It takes forever. Learning where to go and what to do is self-taught. You can miss content and a lot of it. Imagine that, a game maker that went out of their way to put secrets in a game that most people will never find. That is not what happens today. You have to master the game, it doesn't do it for you. And I think that's what the industry is desperately in need of relearning. Today's games, while not to speak down to their quality,
like Dark Souls.
flat out,
Dark Souls
they just take less time and investment by the player. That's a bold statement, but I think it's pretty true. The MMO itself, for the most part, has died away as well.
Like, Dark Souls is the best example of this in the opposite, right? Especially Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, it puts you down, it says, here's a fucking flask, and you can kill the guy that gives you the flask, too. Like, Dark Souls 1 is probably the best example of a game that doesn't follow any of this, and still does really well, I would say.
Well, it's been replaced by a streamlined version of the game, which is completely different in every way. It's more reminiscent of where the AAA modern gaming space is going with all of its accessibility features, and how the game has been trimmed down to appeal to anyone from the ages of 4 to 95. Is it a worse experience than vanilla? No, it's different, and that's the point. The industry has lost touch with how games used to be developed. Games that were challenging, but incredibly rewarding because of how much investment was required by the player. And I think as time goes on, some of those players are going to want those experiences, so we should offer them in industry. And I think once people get a small taste of that treat, it's going to entice a lot of people to stop and think about, holy crap, how far have we come from this place?
I really need
maybe
those.
We don't have to streamline
If somebody
every
somebody
game.
doesn't have that,
Maybe
if
people
I can just get that
want
real quick.
a slower paced game. Maybe people want to interact with each other and have a semblance
Maybe.
of community and world building
Just
through those
maybe.
interactions. Maybe that actually makes a better game.
Yep.
I don't find this stuff in modern games. Obviously, not every game today needs to be built with these things in mind, but I think they're at least merited to be brought up in a discussion when you design a new video game. Do we
Okay.
have to hold the hand of the player at every opportunity? Do we have to have a mini-map compass? Do we have to show objectives on maps? Do we have to make it so approachable and accessible by showering the player with rewards and progressions at rapid-fire rates, all the while removing any decision-making required by the player? Look, I'm not trying to badger on the state of modern gaming. I just think that
Why not? Like, that's true. You just, everything, like, you can never do anything wrong. It's like, as I said, Dark Souls, like, if you accidentally kill the NPC, it's like, hey, shouldn't have done that. You know, like, yeah, maybe they could have a save point that you could go back to. But overall, I mean, there's nothing that you can ever do wrong. Like, you can't throw away the important items. You can't do anything wrong in games anymore. There's basically a win condition and a not win condition. There are very rarely lose conditions, like just hard lose conditions in games. And I don't like that.
it's important to at least see where World of Warcraft Vanilla came from, see what was so compelling and good about it, and see why it has gone away through time, and ultimately finding some sort of appreciation for it. It's difficult to find experiences like Vanilla in 2019, and when you find them, you find out they're not really the same. It seems no matter where you turn, the industry is steering towards lightning-fast gameplay, hyper-progression, and the all-you-can-eat buffet of accessibility. These things are built into our games
microtransactions.
everywhere we look. Anytime you've seen the words matchmaking, group finder, quest helper, or booster, or better yet, when a game itself removes features deemed unnecessary to broaden the appeal of the game. We've seen that time and time again with a lot of games. It's great to want to make a game reachable by gamers of all walks of life. In fact, it's quite admirable to do so. But when you do, you stretch the game so thin, and it begins to compromise its own identity.
That's what happened
After
with
all,
WoW.
broad strokes don't always make for the best painting. Sometimes
you
when
go.
you try to be liked by everyone, you end up being loved by no one.
That's what happened with WoW. That's exactly right. Like, what he's saying is completely fucking right. They just try to appeal to too many people, and then the game becomes just watered down. Nobody gives a fuck.
With increasing frequency that I feel the industry is dead set on steering for this place, and I'm glad Classic is about to be unleashed. If not for the fact that it validates our ability to bring about change, then what it will do to bring insight to the industry. It's a relic from the past that will show a great deal of players that perhaps this industry has gone down some wrong roads lately, especially if the player bases of Classic can compete with retail. Now that would turn some heads. It's
That
been
would
an
be
ongoing
great.
struggle in today's video game economy to get our voices heard, to debunk fallacies like single player only games are dead or that true MMORPGs cannot thrive in today's economy. The mega corporations of the industry sometimes feel like they don't even need to ask, or worse, decide for themselves what we want and how we want it. And with the bottom line trembling beneath their fingers and the people in command knowing more business than gaming usually, it's no surprise that we've gotten to the place we have today in the industry. The growing competition surrounding all game makers has put an immense pressure on them to seek the best avenues for making money so that they may continue doing business. World of Warcraft Classic is very important for gaming because it will hopefully light a spark that shows them that perhaps they should think twice about throwing away some of the great features that Vanilla WoW holds very dear to its heart. Features that have been absolutely lost to time. And if you look at the state of the overall economy, not everyone is happy with where we've ended up and what we've lost in the process. Game economy, that is. So
There's a lot of people that are not, obviously. You just look at like all the comment sections and everything that people are saying.
could the success
everything
of Classic
reinforces
WoW
it.
change the way future games are developed? Or at the very least, dictate some of the future decision making
Yeah, the
from
Zoomers
Blizzard and
want the
Activision?
games, you're right.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Should EA pull the plug on Anthem? What, is Anthem not doing well? I haven't paid attention. They don't make great games. They want to make money. Yeah, exactly. Like, no, you're right. That's all it is. They just want to make money. Like, that's the main priority for games. And like, I understand that like it's a company. Yeah. But like at a certain point, you have to have some degree of integrity. And I feel like that's not even really there anymore. Anthem was dead on arrival. Well, the funny thing is, remember like last year whenever I watched E3 with you guys and they announced Anthem and they were acting like this was going to be like Halo on steroids and it was going to be like this amazing fucking game. I think even like the CEO announced it and it turned out to be fucking garbage. Like, why was it garbage? I don't even know because I didn't play it. But I'm assuming that it's probably just another bullshit game. It's going to be just like Destiny, just like every other fucking game. People they just bring out the same shit over and over and over, and that's all there is to it. I'm sorry, but there it is, Fallout 76. What about Fallout? Oh yeah, the people still haven't gotten their bags from Fallout 76. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, at least Fallout 76 is improved. Maybe it has. I don't know. Are you streaming E3 this year? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.